Amara was at her desk in a small accounting office in Lusaka, focused on her spreadsheets, when her phone started buzzing. It was her mother. She hesitated before answering. Every time her mother called during work hours, it meant one thing: money. "Amara, your sister needs help again," her mother began without even saying hello. "She's at the salon and her card declined. Just send 1,500 kwacha. Your sister will pay for it later." Amara closed her eyes for a moment, exhaling slowly. That familiar weight settled on her chest. It was always Tandy. Always another emergency that somehow became her problem. Her younger sister lived like a celebrity. New wigs every week, nails always done, weekends at fancy lodges, all funded by Amara's hard-earned salary. She tried to keep her voice calm. "Mom, I really can't keep." Her mother cut her off. "Don't start. You know your sister is still finding her footing. You're single, you have no children, at least help where you can." That line again. It stung every time. Amara glanced at her computer screen, the long list of expenses she was already juggling. Rent, groceries, a loan she was still paying off. But in her family's eyes, her paycheck didn't belong to her. It belonged to everyone. She opened her banking app and stared at the balance. For a moment, her finger hovered over the send money button. Then she stopped. Something inside her shifted, a mix of exhaustion and quiet anger. Maybe this time, she thought, she wouldn't send it. Amara used to think that if she worked hard enough, her family would finally see her value. But deep down, she knew the pattern had started long before she ever earned a paycheck. Growing up, her younger sister Tandy was always the favorite, the golden one. Everyone adored her confidence, her laughter, her charm. When they were little, Amara would watch as their father came home with only one pair of new school shoes. "Tandy needs to look presentable," he'd say with a smile. "Amara will manage." And she always did. She wore her old, scuffed shoes until they barely held together, while Tandy strutted proudly in her shiny new pair. At school, Amara worked hard. She stayed up late studying under the dim light of a kerosene lamp, determined to make something of herself. When she finally earned a scholarship to university, she ran home beaming, ready to share the news. Her mother didn't even look up from peeling vegetable. "That's good," she said. "Now when you start working, make sure you help your sister." That sentence stuck with her for years. It wasn't "I'm proud of you," or "you deserve this." It was another reminder that her success existed to support someone else. Now, years later, nothing had changed, only the numbers had gotten bigger. Amara's salary disappeared as quickly as it came in. Rent, electricity, transport, and then the endless family requests. "Your father's car broke down. We're short on food this week. Tandy needs new clothes for work." Each time, her parents promised to pay her back, but the money never returned. Some nights, Amara would sit on her bed, scrolling through her bank statements, wondering where it all went. Her name was on the account, but her life didn't feel like her own. Every kwacha she earned had someone else's name on it: her mother, her father, her sister. Still, whenever she tried to say no, guilt crept in. She could still hear her mother's voice from years ago. "You're the eldest. It's your duty to help." And so she helped. Again and again. Tandy, on the other hand, floated through life with ease. She always had someone to bail her out, and Amara was that someone. When Tandy wanted a new wig, Amara paid. When she booked a girl's trip to Livingstone, Amara covered the shortfall. And when she posted glamorous selfies online, smiling with captions like "blessed and unstoppable," Amara bit her tongue. But lately, that old familiar ache in Amara's chest was growing heavier. She was beginning to see the truth she'd been avoiding since childhood. In her family's eyes, she wasn't the daughter who deserved celebration. She was the daughter who was supposed to provide. And for the first time, Amara wasn't sure she wanted to play that role anymore. That evening, after a long day at work, Amara sat on her couch scrolling through her phone. She was tired, her head heavy from balancing numbers and deadlines all day. Then she saw it, Tandy's latest Instagram post. There was her sister, posing at a fancy salon, hair perfectly styled, nails shining, a brand new designer bag resting on her arm. The caption read, "Hard work pays off, face-blowing kiss nail polish." Amara froze. Hard work. Her stomach twisted. She knew exactly where that hard work had come from, her own bank account. Just hours ago, she'd transferred money for that salon trip after her mother's call. And now Tandy was out here pretending she'd earned it herself. Amara threw her phone on the couch and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. She felt something boiling inside her, anger mixed with exhaustion. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about being invisible. No matter how much she gave, it was never enough. Then her phone buzzed again. Another message from her mother. "Your father's car needs fixing. Just send 5,000. Tandy will pay for it next month." Amara's jaw tightened. It was always the same promise, the same lie. "She'll pay you back." But she never did. No one ever did. She typed her reply slowly, her hands shaking. "No, I can't." For a moment, she just stared at the screen, unsure if she should hit send. Her heart pounded. Saying no wasn't easy. It went against everything she'd been taught. But she pressed send anyway. It didn't take long for the response to come. "You've changed," her mother wrote. "Ever since you started earning, you act like a stranger." Amara felt her throat burn. Changed? Maybe she had. Maybe she was finally tired of being treated like a walking wall. She wanted to scream, to remind her mother of all the times she had bailed them out, of the nights she skipped dinner to send money home, of the sacrifices no one ever noticed. But instead, she just sat there in silence, staring at her dim phone screen. The message from her mother glowed like an accusation. They didn't see her as a daughter anymore, just an ATM that happened to have feelings. Outside, Lusaka's evening hum filled the air, cars, laughter, life moving on. But inside her small apartment, Amara felt something shifting. She didn't cry this time. She didn't beg to be understood. She just sat there quietly, her decision forming like a stone in her chest. Maybe this was the moment everything would start to change. A few days passed, and Amara tried to keep her distance. She didn't call home, didn't check in, just focused on work and keeping her peace. For the first time in a long while, she felt a little free, until her father's name flashed on her screen one evening. She hesitated before answering. "Hello, Dad." His voice was calm but heavy. "Amara, don't shame us. Your sister's wedding is coming soon. You're the eldest. You must set an example." Amara blinked. "Wedding? What wedding?" That was the first she'd heard of it. Apparently, Tandy's fiancé, Patrick, had proposed weeks ago, and the family had already started planning a big, expensive ceremony. Everyone, it seemed, had assumed one thing, that Amara would pay for it. Her father cleared his throat. "You know how people talk. Your sister deserves a proper wedding. Patrick wants something grand. We can't have her look small in front of his family." Amara felt her stomach twist. "Dad, I can't afford that. I'm still paying bills and..." Before she could finish, he cut in. "You always find excuses. Do you want your mother to worry herself sick? Just do this one thing. It's your duty." She wanted to say no. She really did. But later that night, her phone rang again, her mother this time. Amara could already hear her crying before she spoke. "Amara, please," her mother said between sobs. "You want your sister to be embarrassed? Do you hate us that much?" Amara closed her eyes, feeling that familiar guilt creeping back. No matter how unreasonable the request, her mother always knew which words to use, words that pierced straight through her. "It's not about hate, Mom," she said softly. "It's just, I've done so much already." "Then do this too," her mother replied. "You'll be blessed for it." And just like that, Amara gave in. Again, she transferred the money, more than she could really spare, and sat staring at the confirmation message on her phone. The number was large enough to make her chest ache. After the call ended, her apartment felt painfully quiet. She opened her banking app and looked at her account balance. Her savings, the little she'd been trying to build, were almost gone. Just like that. Her eyes stung, but she didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at the screen as if willing the numbers to change. Deep down, she knew what had just happened. It wasn't generosity. It wasn't love. It was manipulation, and she'd fallen for it again. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about how easily they made her feel guilty, how quickly her boundaries crumbled with one phone call. Somewhere inside, a quiet voice whispered, "They'll keep taking until you finally say no, and mean it." A week later, just when Amara thought things couldn't get worse, she got a call from her cousin. "Have you heard about Patrick?" the cousin whispered, almost too eager to spill the tea. "He was seen with another woman. Everyone's talking. The wedding might be off." Amara froze. After everything she had sacrificed, after draining her savings to help pay for a wedding she didn't even know about at first, this was how it turned out? She didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Still, before she could process it all, her mother called. "We're going ahead with an engagement dinner this weekend," she said cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. Amara was stunned. "But I thought they broke up?" Her mother brushed it off. "People fight, my dear. Don't worry. Patrick apologized. Your sister forgave him. And anyway, these things happen. We can't cancel the dinner now. Everyone's been invited. Oh, and please bring something nice. We want everything to look perfect." Amara sighed, rubbing her temples. "Mom, I really don't think." "Don't worry," her mother interrupted. "Your sister will pay you back after the wedding." That line again. The same empty promise she'd heard for years. By Saturday, Amara showed up at the restaurant, dressed neatly, but with a heavy heart. The place was buzzing. Lights, music, people laughing, Tandy glowing in a bright red dress as if nothing had ever happened. Patrick stood beside her, grinning like the perfect fiancé. When he spotted Amara, he waved. "Ah, the big sister. The serious one," he said loudly, his tone dripping with mockery. "You accountants, eh? Always counting coins, even when you smile." The guests chuckled. Tandy giggled too, leaning on his arm instead of standing up for her sister. Amara forced a polite smile. "Someone has to be responsible," she said softly, but her voice trembled. Throughout the dinner, she sat there watching the two of them, Patrick making shallow jokes, Tandy basking in attention, while her parents boasted about how well their daughters were doing. No one mentioned that Amara had paid for most of it. No one even thanked her. She looked around the table at the faces of her family, all laughing, eating, drinking, and for the first time, she truly saw it. They didn't respect her kindness. They expected it. Her generosity wasn't seen as love, it was seen as duty. As the evening went on, her smile faded. She realized she wasn't part of the celebration, she was the sponsor of it. And right there, between the clinking glasses and fake laughter, something inside her snapped. She decided this would be the last time they used her like this. They could call her cold, selfish, ungrateful. She didn't care anymore. This was the night Amara quietly promised herself she would never be their backup plan again. That night, after the dinner, Amara drove home in silence. The city lights blurred through her windshield, her thoughts louder than the traffic around her. Every laugh from the evening replayed in her head. Patrick's jokes, her sister's fake smile, her parents' proud words about Tandy. Not one person had thanked her. Not once. When she got home, she didn't turn on the lights. She went straight to her desk, opened her laptop, and pulled out her bank statement. For a moment, she just stared at the long list of transactions, so many transfers that she'd lost count. Rent for her parents. Salon money for Tandy. Emergency payments that never got paid back. It felt endless. She started writing them all down, line by line, month by month. At first, it was just numbers. But then she started to feel the weight of each one. The late nights she'd worked overtime, the weekends she'd skipped outings to save, the times she'd cried quietly after sending her last bit of money. When she finished, she looked at the total at the bottom of the page, 298,470 kwacha. Nearly 300,000. Her chest tightened. She whispered to herself, no more. Those two words hung in the air, small but powerful. For the first time, she didn't feel guilty. She felt in control. The next morning, she woke up with a strange calm. No hesitation, no second-guessing. She called her bank before even leaving bed. I want to set new transfer limits, she said firmly. And I need to cancel a secondary card linked to my account. The banker hesitated. The one ending in 1283? Yes, Amara said. Cancel it immediately. It was the same card her mother had convinced her to open for family emergencies. But lately, Amara had noticed unusual charges. Salon visits, online shopping, even restaurant bills. Things she'd never bought. She had kept quiet before, afraid of causing drama. But now she was done being silent. After the call, she deleted her family's banking shortcuts from her phone. It felt strange, like cutting invisible strings that had held her for years. She brewed herself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the sun rise over Lusaka. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel drained or angry. She just felt free. That afternoon, she opened a new savings account, one with no shared access, no linked cards, no promises attached. It was hers alone. She transferred a small amount and smiled. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As the evening breeze drifted through her apartment, Amara looked around her quiet space. Her own peace, her own choices. She whispered again, no more. And this time she meant it. 2 days later, Amara's phone started buzzing nonstop. She was in the middle of a client meeting when she saw her mother's name flashing across the screen again and again. Something told her to ignore it, but the calls kept coming. Finally, during her lunch break, she picked up. The moment she answered, her mother's angry voice filled her ear. Amara, you embarrassed us at the store. They said the card was declined in front of everyone. Amara blinked. What card? She asked, though she already knew. The one you gave us for emergencies, her mother snapped. I was buying groceries, and the cashier said it didn't go through. People were watching. Do you know how humiliating that was? Amara took a slow breath. Mom, she said calmly, the card didn't work because it's mine. I canceled it. There was a long, sharp silence on the other end. Then her mother's voice rose, trembling with anger. You're ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, we sacrificed for you, and this is how you repay us. Amara closed her eyes. She'd heard this speech 100 times before, but this time, it didn't sting the same way. I know what you did for me, Mom, she said quietly, and I've repaid you 100 times over. Her mother gasped, as if Amara had just insulted her. How dare you speak to me like that? Before Amara could respond, another voice jumped in. Tandy had joined the call. Oh, so this is who you've become now? You think you're better than us because you have a job? Because you earn in kwacha and wear office clothes? Amara's grip on her phone tightened, but her voice stayed calm. Tandy, I've helped you more than anyone else ever has. But I can't keep living like this. I'm not your bank. Tandy scoffed loudly. You've changed. You're selfish now. Selfish. That word again. It was the family's favorite insult, the one they used anytime she dared to put herself first. Amara's throat tightened. but not from guilt this time. It was from relief. She finally saw the truth clearly. No matter how much she gave, it would never be enough. They didn't want her love, they wanted her money. She took a deep breath and said softly, "I love you, but I'm done being used." Then, without waiting for another word, she ended the call. For a few seconds, she just sat there, her heart pounding. The silence that followed felt strange, heavy, yet peaceful. She stared at her phone, half expecting another round of missed calls, but nothing came. For the first time in years, Amara didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel like a bad daughter or a cold sister. She felt free. Weeks passed, and the silence was louder than any argument. No calls, no texts, no guilt-tripping messages. For the first time in her life, Amara's phone stayed quiet, and it felt strange, almost unreal. At first, she caught herself checking it constantly, half expecting her mother's name to pop up. But it didn't. And slowly, that silence began to feel like peace. Without the constant pressure to send money or fix someone's problem, Amara started to breathe again. She paid her bills without anxiety. She cooked for herself, took long walks after work, and even started reading before bed, something she hadn't done in years. Every payday, she moved a portion of her salary into her savings account. Watching the numbers grow gave her a quiet sense of pride. A few months later, she did something bold. She booked a solo trip to Zanzibar. Just her, the ocean, and the life she had built on her own terms. For the first time, she spent money that didn't come with guilt. She stayed at a small beachfront lodge, ate fresh seafood, laughed with strangers, and let the salt air wash away the heaviness that had followed her for years. One evening, as she sat on the sand watching the sunset paint the sky in orange and pink, she smiled to herself. This, she thought, is what my hard work should feel like. No expectations, no guilt, just peace. When she returned to Lusaka, she felt stronger, calmer. She was finally living for herself, not for everyone else's demand. Then, one afternoon, as she was reviewing some client accounts at work, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her father. "We need to talk. Your mother isn't well." Her stomach dropped. No matter how distant things had become, she couldn't ignore something like that. Without hesitation, she packed an overnight bag and took the next bus home. The entire ride, her mind raced with worry. Was her mother in the hospital? Was it serious? Guilt crept in, that old familiar feeling she thought she'd left behind. When she finally reached home, she rushed to the gate, her heart pounding. She expected to see quiet faces, maybe her father waiting with bad news. Instead, she heard music, laughter, voices, and the clinking of glasses. She froze. In the living room, balloons hung from the ceiling. A big banner read, "Congratulations, Tandy." Tables were covered in pink and white decorations. Her sister, glowing and pregnant, was in the center of it all, surrounded by friends and family. Amara stood at the doorway, speechless. Her father spotted her and smiled awkwardly. "Ah, you made it," he said, as if nothing was wrong. She blinked. "You said Mom wasn't well." He laughed softly. "Well, she was feeling down. We thought seeing everyone would cheer her up." That's when it hit her. It wasn't concern that brought her here. It was manipulation. Again, as the laughter carried through the room, Amara felt something inside her go still. They hadn't changed at all, but she had. Amara stood near the corner of the living room, quietly watching the celebration unfold. The baby shower had turned into a full-blown family event. Music, laughter, food, and endless chatter about Tandy's perfect life. Everyone was smiling, taking photos, clapping as her parents boasted proudly about their younger daughter. Her mother's voice rose above the noise. "We are so proud of Tandy," she said, her face glowing. "Can you believe she bought this beautiful house all on her own?" The guests clapped again. Tandy beamed. Amara felt something twist inside her. She looked around at the painted walls, the new furniture, the shiny tiles, all of it paid for by her money. She still remembered that transfer months ago when her mother said, "Just help with the down payment. Tandy will handle the rest." Another promise that never came true. She sipped her juice slowly, hiding her smirk. "Bought it herself," she whispered under her breath. "Right." When the last guest finally left and the house quieted down, Amara stayed behind. Her parents and Tandy were clearing dishes, still chatting cheerfully when she spoke. Her voice was calm but firm. "I need to say something." They turned to her, surprised by her tone. Her mother frowned. "What's wrong now?" Amara took a deep breath. "You've used me for years," she said. "You lied, manipulated me, and made me feel guilty every time I tried to say no. But it ends today." Her father raised his hand gently. "Amara, please. Don't start drama. You're overreacting." She shook her head. "No, I'm not." She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and opened her banking app. The screen glowed as she scrolled through the long list of transfers. "You see this?" she said, her voice steady. "This is every payment I've ever sent. School fees, car repairs, groceries, salon money, weddings, everything. All of it." She held the phone out toward them. "That's how much I've helped." Nearly 300,000 kwacha. Her mother's eyes widened. Her father looked away, silent. Tandy crossed her arms. So what, Amara? You're counting favors now. Amara's lips pressed into a thin smile. No, I'm counting lessons. Because every time I helped, you made me feel like I owed you. But now I see it clearly. I don't owe anyone anymore. Her mother tried to speak, but Amara cut her off. You call me selfish because I stopped paying for everyone's choices. But the truth is, I've been selfless to the point of losing myself. That's over. She put her phone back in her bag and looked around the room one last time. From now on, it's your turn to stand on your own. The silence that followed was heavy. No one moved. For the first time, they couldn't guilt her, couldn't twist her words. Amara turned and walked toward the door. This time, she didn't look back. Months later, Amara's life looked completely different. She had moved to a new city, rented a small apartment with bright windows, and finally opened her own accounting. It wasn't easy at first. Long nights, tight budgets, and no family safety net to fall back on. But it was hers. Every cent she earned, every client she gained, felt like a victory she didn't have to share or explain. Her parents no longer called asking for money. The silence that once felt heavy now felt peaceful. Sometimes she missed them, but she didn't miss the guilt. Once a month, her phone would buzz with a short message from Tandy. Hope you're well. Miss you. That was all. No requests. No pressure. Just quiet words. And Amara always replied kindly but briefly, polite, distant, steady. She had finally learned how to protect her peace. One Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at her office door. When she opened it, she saw Tandy standing there, a little nervous, holding a small gift wrapped in brown paper. I was in town, Tandy said softly. I wanted to see you. They sat together for a while, chatting awkwardly but peacefully. Before leaving, Tandy handed her the package. Inside was a simple framed note that read, "Thank you for everything. I didn't understand before, but I do now." Amara looked at it for a long moment, then smiled. Not because of the apology, but because she no longer needed one. She finally knew her worth, and it had nothing to do with what she could give. As she placed the frame on her desk, her voice echoed in her mind. When you stop being everyone's ATM, they call you selfish. But it's not selfish, it's survival.